Hey everybody, my name is Dave Jackson, and this is Tales from the Backlog, a video games podcast where I bring in guests to talk about the games that I've played recently. I am joined today by Aaron Engel.
What's happening?
And I'm also joined today by Ryan Delaney.
Hey, what's going on?
And today's game is Ghost of Tsushima, which is an open-world action game set on the Japanese island of Tsushima during the first Mongol invasion in 1274. Developed by Sucker Punch Productions and published by Sony for PlayStation 4 in 2020, with a PS5 update director's cut released in 2021. Before we get into talking about Ghost of Tsushima, let's talk a little bit about what we've been playing recently. Ryan, you're our new guest, so why don't you tell us what you've been playing recently?
I'm always all over the place. I can never stay really focused on one game. That's what made Ghost of Tsushima so special for me. But these days, play a lot of RimWorld. I love RimWorld a lot. RimWorld's a great game. It's so unique in a lot of ways. I recently got back into Dead Space 2. I played it back in like 2013. It's an amazing game, one of the best survival horror games. It's a lot more action-packed than the first one, a lot less scary, but yeah, Dead Space 2 is amazing. It's good for the season. I played through another Retroid 2 remake, AM2R, and that was really incredible. Best fan game I've ever played in my life. And I've been slowly pacing through Ratchet and Clank, trying to make it through.
Is that the PS5 Ratchet and Clank?
Yeah, that's right. The Rift Apart or Rift Apart or whatever it's called. It's good. It's just like I said before, I have problems just focusing on one game. I'm just always just a different game every day, and I just slowly make it through each one. I'm looking forward to playing that Kena game and Deathloop whenever it goes on sale.
Kena looks really, really cool. Are you talking about that Spirit Awakens? That game looks really neat, dude.
Yeah, Bridge of Spirits, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Kena Bridge of Spirits.
Yes, that one.
Looks absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, it looks great. It's been getting good reviews. I read some reviewers said that it's the 35th Zelda anniversary that we deserved. So big Zelda fan.
Instead of the Skyward Sword remaster.
Yeah, instead of that garbage, whatever that was.
Right. Yeah, this episode will be coming out a little while after Kena releases, so we'll see what the consensus is on it. But so far, reviews seem pretty positive.
Yeah, it's got like a 85 on OpenCritic, Metacritic. So
cool.
I mean, that's promising.
Nice. And you're playing Dead Space. They're remaking that, right? Or they're remaking the first one?
Yeah, and that's kind of what inspired me to go back to this. I played Dead Space 1 probably about 4 years ago because I'd never played it. I played the second one, but I'd never gotten to the first one. Or I'd never gotten to the first one before, so I played the first one. I'm replaying the second one. Oh, man, those games are so good. I don't know if, Dave, you don't like jump scares, but
I do not.
That's pretty much... It's kind of desensitizes you to jump scares because that's kind of the natural enemies coming for you. Instead of enemies coming from the distance towards you, it's just jump scare after jump scare after jump scare. But it really desensitizes them to you after a while. You get pretty, it's pretty normal. It's just the normal approach for enemies to come at you is to just jump out of walls or ceilings.
That sounds so awful to me. It sounds like I'm gonna break a controller on accident.
The second one's not so bad. The second one's more action-paced. If you guys ever played Resident Evil 4, it's more comparable to that than an older Resident Evil where it's the looming sense of dread. This one's way more action-paced. There's so many cool action scenes where the windows will explode. You got some explosive decompression pulling you out. You got to shoot a switch real fast. The mechanics for killing the enemies is amazing. You have to shoot off their limbs.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know, it's just a badass game. You got this cool suit, running around shooting your little plasma cutter. The character is awesome. The story is really cool. It's about like this cult that creates this marker, and it kind of summons aliens. It's a super cool game. I highly recommend it. But I can understand if you don't like scary games, it's probably not for you.
Yeah, but it does sound like if I'm ever gonna do basically just fear factor, kind of break my fear of jump scares by just experiencing 1,000 jump scares, I should probably just play that game.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's perfect for that. It's perfect. Literally, the normal way enemies approach you is to just jump through walls, and yeah, it'll definitely break you of your fear of jump scares for sure.
It's
It'll
weird. It's weird how like I love Dark Souls and Bloodborne and those games, and enemies constantly break through doors and stuff and surprise you, and that kind of jump scare never, like, freaks me out. But in other games, it's like unbearable, the threat of a jumk scare for me. So
Right,
I'm not sure.
right. And we've talked about this before, but I don't really understand. I never really got that about like
No.
why you don't like you like Dark Souls, you like BioShock, right?
Yeah.
Uh, and those games have their share of jump scares. What's another one that you played? What was it? The underwater, the what
Oh,
was it?
Soma.
Soma, right, right. Soma's full of those little jumps.
Soma didn't actually have jump scares, and they turned on. I played on like the safe mode where the enemies can't hurt you, so that took away part of it, I think.
Well, maybe just like crank that difficulty all the way down. Try to play a scary game.
Yeah, that's true. I
If
mean,
there's no fear of getting killed, you know.
we're recording this in September, and it'll release in October sometime, I think. But I'll be playing some kind of spooky games in October on low difficulties to see if that helps. So,
Yeah, right, right. Yeah.
Aaron, what have you been playing recently, man?
Dave, I'm not gonna lie to you. As I'm sitting in my chair smoking a half cigarette, my hair has gone curly and gray. I am still playing Final Fantasy 14, dude. Like I cannot get enough of it. My normal routine, right, is I wake up in the morning, I drink a pot of coffee. Much like our parents and grandparents reading a newspaper, I get on my phone and I read stuff. The very first thing I've been doing when I wake up in the morning, making that coffee, and then going and turning on Final Fantasy 14 so I can just get some like menial shit out of the way, you know. But that's what I've been on, man. Like I've said before, it's just like I don't really play a lot of MMOs, and they really hit it on every single level. So I've been playing a healer. You know, I feel like that's the way that I can contribute to a team because I suck at video games like this. And I've slowly come to realize that like everybody hates healers unless you're the Michael Jordan of healers. So it's pretty frustrating playing with people sometimes because they're like, "Why didn't you heal me?" And I'm like, "You ran to another room, dog. What do you want me to do, man?" But I'm still absolutely obsessed with the game. I have recently joined the blacks or not the carpentry guild. So I can create furniture that people will pay me for with real life money to put in their house. So that will be really cool. But I don't want to talk about it, but because it's already consuming my entire life. But Final Fantasy 14, I loved it so much more than I thought I would.
Yeah. Well, it seems like that's like the general way that people experience Final Fantasy 14 is like if you're a healer, everyone hates you. If you're a tank, everyone hates you. If you're a DPS, everyone hates you. You know, you can't really win. So
I have no friends on that thing, dude. We're all enemies. When you win, there's no celebration. It's just like can't wait to never see you again, fuck face, and then jumping through the exit portal.
Are you in like a guild or something? Do you contribute?
Yes. Yeah, so they have different guilds for like different skill sets. Like, you could be like an apothecary or you can be like a culinarian or whatever. But you can also like team up with people like in the game. Me and my friends, we created like a free company, which is basically like our own version of like a trading company. So we can collect supplies, sell them to other people. We can exchange things amongst each other. It's super in depth, and I really don't want to talk about it anymore. But it is like if you can think that an MMO could potentially do a thing, Final Fantasy 14 does it, and they do it very well.
yeah.
Why did it suddenly become popular again? I know it's super popular these days. Like what happened?
Well, it used to just be like terrible, and then they re-released the initial game, and they called it a Realm Reborn. They made it cheaper. They made it so you didn't have to pay as much monthly. I remember when I first heard about it, it was like $30 a month to play the game. Now it's $10 a month, which is a little better for me. Considering how much time I've been putting into it. But basically they did what good video game companies do is they listened to the fans and they acted accordingly, and now everybody likes it.
Yeah. Another thing, I was chatting with another buddy who plays a lot of MMOs recently, and he said that the controversy with Blizzard, coupled with the fact that people are mad at
That's a good point.
what's going on with WoW, the game itself, is just driving people toward Final Fantasy for their MMO fix. And like, a bunch of popular streamers have been getting on Final Fantasy. Like WoW streamers have been trying out Final Fantasy and just like sending their, thousands of fans over. So I
Right,
think
yeah.
like the perfect storm right now for Final Fantasy.
I saw there's a big what's his name? He's a streamer. His name's Rubber Ross. He had a subathon where he sat there and ate 147,000 eggs. Final Fantasy 14 eggs. He just collected a bunch of eggs and just had his character eat them over days.
I'd give him money too. That just sounds like high quality entertainment to me,
Yeah,
man.
it was literally just his screen, and his character would just eat an egg every 15 seconds.
Hell yeah.
There's
That's so
147,000 of them. It was so silly.
That's so silly as shit, dude. That's
Uh,
so funny. I love
Video games, they're
guys.
just like real life.
Yeah,
Exactly, dude.
eat an egg.
Lately, so on the last episode, I said I was about to finish Hitman 3, and I did finish Hitman 3 yesterday, and I started replaying Hitman 1 because you can play the old levels in the Hitman 3 engine, so everything looks beautiful and runs beautifully. So I played a few of those levels, getting ready to probably record some podcasts about those games later on because they're just the best. Yeah. Hitman 3 is really, really good. It's kind of different, but it's really good. If you like the Hitman like puzzle box levels, there's a bit less of that in Hitman 3 because they're focusing on the story a little bit more, which I think is them practicing because they're going to make a James Bond game. Kind of practicing for that because James Bond has to have like a clear story to follow in his stories. So yeah, that's what I've been playing lately. Hitman.
So overall, do you think Hitman 3 is better than the other two? Is it an improvement or?
It's an improvement in graphics, but no, I don't, because like the thing about Hitman is the intricate like clockwork levels, and there's just less of that in Hitman 3. There's a couple of them that are really stand out, but I think Hitman 2 is probably the best for that.
Cool.
So
Yeah, I'm planning on playing Hitman 2 in VR whenever I need to set up my PSVR whenever I can. I don't know, sometime in the next few weeks maybe. I got a Hitman 2's free on PlayStation Plus this month.
right, yeah. For anyone listening to this, it's going to be well past that, but it was free. If you are able to procure a time machine, go back and get Hitman 2 because that game fucking rules. VR would be super interesting to see how that works because I don't think the game was like designed with VR in mind, so I hope it works.
Yeah, and there's not too many AAA VR games anyway, and I guess this game wasn't designed in VR. But I don't know. It seems like people like it.
That's good.
It might just be a gimmick.
Yeah.
And it's cool that the devs did it, the devs didn't have to go and make a VR mode for it. I don't think they attracted many new customers because, PSVR is not really, it's kind of a niche thing anyway.
Yeah, even in like the VR circles, like there are a few big VR games, but they're not on PSVR as far as I know, like the Half-Life game.
Alex, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a couple Ace Combat's one of them, but that's impossible to play in VR. Such a headache.
That Star Wars game was in VR,
Right.
the Squadrons game.
I got that too. I need to load that up. It was free on PS Plus a long time ago.
Yeah. All right, let's get into talking about Ghost of Tsushima. For anyone listening, if you have not played Ghost of Tsushima, it's okay because we're going to avoid spoilers. We're going to do our best to avoid spoilers until the spoiler wall later in the episode. So don't worry, we won't spoil things for you. We'll try not to. If you have played it, we are going to get into the spoilery good stuff later in the episode. So let's begin by talking about our histories with Ghost of Tsushima. Like when did we play it? What got us interested in it? How long did it take to play? So I'll get started. I heard about, Ghost of Tsushima got a huge marketing push. So anyone who follows video games and PlayStation stuff heard about it. But I put it off because I rarely buy games when they first come out. And then Aaron was telling me about how good it is. So I picked it up. I played it in probably across May, June, and July of this year, 2021. I got it before the PS5 upgrade, but I played it on a PS5, so I guess that helped with like loading times and stuff like that. Even without the upgrade, we're going to talk about it, but I was just blown away by how it looks and feels to play. And it took me 36 hours to play, and I feel like I got a good amount of completion with that. Aaron, how about you? I heard about it from you, so why did you get interested in it?
Well, Arrington, the Ryan Arrington, our guest on the last episode, he's way more into like the hey, what's coming out like side of video games. And he had been talking about it forever and ever and ever. And the way he kind of put it to me was that he kind of said it was like Grand Theft Auto, but set in like early, like, I don't remember, like 1300s or 1200s Japan. And it was basically like a Grand Theft Auto samurai game. And I was like, that sounds pretty cool, but I've never been into like, Grand Theft Auto like that. But he sent me a clip one day and he's like, bro, like, when there's something nearby, a bird flies down from the sky and guides you to it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. I'm going to buy that day one. So I went out and I bought it, and that was my initial attraction was, oh, hey, you can interact with animals and stuff around the world and they help you find stuff. I'm like, well, that's just enough for me right there, especially with all the publicity it was getting. But yeah, again, another recommendation from Ryan that I jumped into immediately. And it was one of those like, buy that game right away games that I didn't regret. Like I was like, okay, this is like money well spent here.
For sure. And it's a good thing it's not like a Grand Theft Auto game if you don't like those games. I'm not sure where that
Exactly.
comparison came from.
Well, just an open world kind of, do what you want kind of thing. But yeah, I agree. It's not really much like Grand Theft Auto unless you're like completely like only just using the fact that it's in like third person, but I can see the similarities and stuff, but it was from the minute I started that game, I was hooked. I was completely okay with paying full price for it.
Sure. Aaron, how many hours did you play? Do you remember?
I don't, but I can tell you I did 100% complete the game. Like I wanted to squeeze every little bit of juice out of it. And it's one of like maybe like 3 or 4 games I've ever put 100% into. But the biggest difference is the little side shit in the game is what makes this game so good. Like the main story is good and the battle system good and all that. It's just the tiny little things you can do. You can tell that they like put in the work to perfect those little things. Like, you can like play a flute after you kill somebody. That was my favorite thing. Kill somebody and then like play the flute and like, help guide their soul into the afterlife. But tiny little shit like that. But I 100% completed it because I had beaten the game and I did not want to stop playing it yet. So I just went ahead and 100% completed it.
Right. We'll talk about that side stuff when we get into the game itself. Ryan, how about you? What's your history with Ghost of Tsushima?
Well, I saw it and I was really interested in it initially because I really like Sucker Punch Studios. I think the Infamous games are pretty cool. I really enjoyed the Infamous game. Second Light's a great game. It's short, fun. It's kind of a cool open world game. But Sucker Punch Studios, they put out some good stuff. I was interested in it, but I didn't want to pick it up when it first came out because I was planning on getting a PlayStation 5, and I'm a sucker for those higher frame rates. I'm crazy about the higher frame rates. I have to have them right now. I can't play a game at 30 FPS anymore. So I ended up playing it this year in February, maybe January or February, and I got it on sale from the Christmas sale, I believe, for like $40, and it was well worth the money. I probably spent, I don't know, I almost 100%ed it like Aaron, but I didn't have anybody to play the multiplayer with, so I couldn't 100% it. But yeah, I went and did all the side stuff, went and got all the haikus and all that goofy stuff. Yeah, it was overall a great experience. I would do it again in, 5 or 6 years from now.
Right on.
For sure.
Yeah, I could see myself replaying this someday. All right. Let's get into the game and like the basics of how everything works. We're gonna start with the most striking thing about Ghost of Tsushima, which is the visuals. I don't often, like visuals are not something that I really pay a close amount of attention to a lot of times, but it's just impossible to ignore it in Ghost of Tsushima. So, like I said, I played this before the PS5 upgrade, um, but it was still, top level, most beautiful game I've ever played. The way that they use colors throughout the game, the way that every area you go into has a theme. Like this area is just a giant field of roses, or like this area is just like golden, wheat fields or something like that, or like the classic like white flowers blowing in the wind that I feel like every Japanese game has these days. Um, every section of the map is just a treat visually, and for me that meant that like instead of fast traveling most of the time, I would just ride my horse across the map because all of these areas are so beautiful. The weather effects are just really, really cool. It was just a treat to like ride through these areas and just take in the scenery. I also took a shitload of screenshots in this game, and I am not a screenshot person most of the time. I only take a screenshot if something funny is up on screen. But Ghost of Tsushima, I stopped, took pictures often. Just incredible. What do you guys think about the visuals?
I'm with you, man. I think that it has arguably the best graphics I've ever seen in a video game. One thing that you didn't like, you pretty much nailed everything on the head right there, dude. Like visually, it's great. Every area is great. I love the little like creek paths that lead you to duels and stuff. You know how they like surround you with trees and the wind picks up or the sky changes color. Like it all like comes together very well, like pretty flawlessly. But the battling in the game graphically, I just think is so fucking cool. Like the way, like it's the combat is pretty much is pretty simple. You're dodging, you're blocking, you're slicing and stuff. But seeing Jin like do the things that he's doing and being able to see it so clearly, like okay, cool, he's just gonna jump over this guy, like jump over this guy's back and then stab him through and pull the blade out and then shake the fucking blade out or shake the blade off so it doesn't have blood on it anymore. Decapitating somebody in the game, just having him do that while he's looking the other direction, man. The battle system in that game is one of the most fun. And if we're going to talk about the graphics here, like they nailed that part better than they did anything else. And again, one more thing before I stop, dude, I also took so many pictures. Like I would just be like standing in front of a sprawling meadow, like you said, the fields of roses that they have in certain areas in the game, and I would just stand there and play I would play the flute and get the sky, overcast and have it rain a little bit. I just take like 40 pictures, and I'd send my friends. I'm like, hey, isn't this cool? They're like, leave me alone. I'm like, I'm gonna go ahead and take some more pictures here. But everything else, Dave, you're 100% right about, dude. Graphically, it's one of the best games ever made.
Yeah, I have to agree with Aaron and Dave for sure. Yeah, just the atmosphere alone is so atmospheric, and it being an open world, it's kind of empty. There's sparse camps set up, and there's people walking through, but the emptiness is kind of I don't know, it's kind of a good thing in this game because the scenery is just so beautiful, just the attention to detail. For example, the flowers, there's these red spider lilies, and I have red spider lilies right outside my house, and you could see them clear as day what kind of flower it is. You can see the Japanese maple trees. You can see their leaves blowing on the ground. Also, I really liked the Kurosawa mode. It was really cool. Did you guys try that out?
I was gonna ask if anyone tried that out. I didn't.
Yeah, dude, it's super cool. That was I couldn't play it like that, but it was like it still looked awesome.
Right, yeah, you just pop it on for a little bit. I was failing pretty miserable at some of the duels, so I would pop it on for, just for a couple fights. Yeah, it looked beautiful. It's just such a beautiful game. And like I said, it's empty, but it's a pleasure to just ride your horse through. It's a pleasure to just walk through. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, for people who haven't played, the Kurosawa mode is like a black and white filter that you can play. Is it basically play the entire game in black and white? I guess like I've heard from people who like Kurosawa movies that they don't like that mode. They don't think it accurately portrays how those movies look. But I personally haven't seen any of those movies. I can't make a judgment on that. But I think it does look kind of cool to just flip it on, see how some of these areas look. But I would never play more than a couple minutes with that mode on.
Right, it's just a cool little gimmick that they added to pay homage to one of the best Japanese filmmakers of all time.
Right.
It's just a grain filter when it comes down to it, but it's just a cool little gimmick that they added.
Yeah. And part of their influence, they were clearly very heavily influenced by like Japanese films when they made this game. So I actually wanted to also talk about the cinematics and like the blocking in cutscenes and duels. They're portrayed in such a like more cinematic way than most games do, like especially open world games. You don't often get those cutscenes where it's just like your main character and an NPC standing face to face talking without moving. Like the cutscenes are all they're all acted. There's when you have duels with enemies, they're like blocked and framed in such like an action oriented way that really goes a long way into like the entertainment value of playing this game.
Yeah, I agree. They definitely had a great director of cinematography that paid attention to a lot of those old samurai films from the past, and yeah, there's definitely a big influence by those in all the cutscenes and the drama, the voice acting itself, just the facial expressions. It seems like almost you're watching one of those Kurosawa films.
Yeah, did you guys play with English voice acting or with Japanese?
Japanese all the way.
I definitely played with the English voice acting, and it was very funny. I sort of wish I would have played with I feel like it would have came across, a little bit more serious. But yeah, I played it with English too. Like I try my best not to play anything with subtitles. I'm not gonna hate, but I just not my preference.
Yeah. I actually really like playing games in like the settings native language. So like Japanese games set in Japan, I try to play in Japanese, stuff like that. But until I guess maybe this got an update later, but when I played it, the voice and like the lip syncing wasn't synced up with the Japanese vocals, and it really bothered me. So I switched to English. But the English voice acting was really, really good. Like
I
you
never
said.
I never noticed that, Dave. I never noticed
Okay,
any problem with mine.
fair enough. Um, and the music in the game, I don't have a lot to say about it. It's pretty laid back, except for the like action music that plays during like extremely intense moments. We'll talk about one after the spoiler wall, but the main theme of the game is pretty good. You heard that at the beginning of this episode. Music's pretty good, but overall, I think it's pretty laid back.
Yeah, for sure. It's
And that flute too. I'm sorry.
Hey,
I like that
he
flute
loves
was
the
my
flute.
It's
favorite.
all about that
It's
flute.
my favorite thing in the game. Kill somebody, play the flute. It's too bright outside. Play the flute. You know, I can't. I'm not getting into spoilers, but play the flute.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, I
I
was
didn't
gonna
play the flute, so that could be some advice for people who haven't played. Aaron says play the flute.
Play
Uh,
that flute.
if you have any questions about the game, if you're not really liking it, get that flute out.
Yep, just play the
Yeah,
flute.
dude. It will guide your way.
So let's get into like one other thing that sets this game apart, which is how the open world works in Ghost of Tsushima. I personally have been getting kind of sick of standard open world game design where you have a map full of question marks to fill out. I played Assassin's Creed Odyssey last year or so and just got so burned out by how repetitive it was. And Ghost of Tsushima kind of has a reputation for kind of going against that because, like I think Aaron said earlier, you have these animals that lead you to stuff. Like golden birds will lead you to new locations. Foxes will lead you to Inari shrines. And probably its biggest thing to claim is that you don't have a giant like map marker shining in the distance, and you don't have a giant golden trail leading you to your destination on the ground. You kind of flick the control pad, and the wind blows in the direction that you need to go in, which I personally think that all of these things go a long way towards immersion, but it's still an open world game. It's just like papering over those really artificial feeling things, because you still have map markers, but instead of an Inari Shrine map marker, it's a fox map marker, and then you go see the fox, and the fox takes you to the shrine. So, I mean, I like these things, but I don't think it's not like this open world killer like the reputation has. What do you guys think?
Right, and there's also a lot of audio cues as well that help you push you in the direction, so you could hear the bird, and you're like, oh, there's a bird around here somewhere. You gotta find the bird, or you can hear the fox making its little barking noises. I didn't even know foxes barked. Is that a thing? Is that real?
They do. They make sounds like that.
Okay, so you can hear the fox barking, and you can go find the fox. So you really didn't need some of those map markers. If you use those audio cues, you don't even need them at all.
And there may be a way to turn those off too. I'm not sure. I don't really tool around in settings too much, but there might be a way to just turn all that stuff off.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it compared to a game like Red Dead Redemption 2, where you do have all those map markers and you're just kind of wandering around aimlessly. At least with this game, it does give you some sense of direction, and the wind was a really cool idea. To just send you where you're going. Oh, you're doing this quest. Just follow the wind.
Right.
Follow the wind.
Hey, right, dude. And I'll say that's one of the coolest things in the game to me was the wind, because we've been playing video games for such a long time that I feel like I could easily say okay, if I'm going to play a blank kind of game, for me to consider it great, or for me to get myself into it, it's got to have that same formula, but it's got to do it differently. The wind guiding you to things was the coolest possible way that they could have done, what direction am I supposed to go? It was kind of frustrating, sometimes, because I think if there's one bad thing, quote unquote, about the game, it's like the camera and how you control the camera during fights and stuff like that. But the wind guiding you from location to location was very cool. Before we move on, one more thing I want to talk about. If you play your flute, hashtag Aaron loves flutes, in front of a frog shrine, a bunch of little frogs come out of nowhere and they jump around your feet 500. It's the coolest thing in the world, dude.
Aaron's all about frogs, so anytime you can get a frog in there, he's all about it.
$60 easy. Frogs, I'm in.
Frogs and flutes. This is Christmas gifts this year, huh?
Yeah.
This game is so good.
We mentioned the foxes. I need to go back to them just for a second. Those foxes are incredibly cute. The way that they're animated, they get excited and they do little tip taps with their feet. They roll over on their back. They're
you can pet
goddamn
them.
Cute. You can pet them. The foxes are so good. Without spoilers, there's a part in the game where a fox gets killed and you're like, No, you motherfucker. Yeah.
And everybody in England is cheering because they fucking hate foxes. I remember when I was first playing the game, I was like, I want to 100% this game. I want to get every achievement. I wonder if there's an achievement for petting every fox, that you find along the way. So when you complete the Inari Shrine, I would immediately go and pet it. And I had done it 25 times in a row. And then one time I found an Inari Shrine and I could not find the fox anywhere. And I was so mad. I was like, God, I gotta look and see if that's an achievement real quick. Okay, it's not. I still feel bad. That one fox I did not get to pet that one fox, and it really fucked me up.
After you get in an Inari Shrine, you get a chance to pet the fox, and if you just ignore the fox, if you don't give him his pets for being a good guide, I don't know what to tell you. You're a fucking monster.
You're a monster. You're going to hell.
The director's cut, they added belly rubs to the fox.
Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah, they do others. They dance or something too. They do something else.
Good foxes.
Right, it's one of the buying points for me for buying the director's cut is little fox belly rubs,
Belly rubs in glorious 4K HDR with ray tracing.
All right.
Ooh, hey, Bale's getting hot in here.
Yeah. There are other side activities you can do which really stand out from typical open world fare. There's hot springs to increase your health, which is it's, sometimes it's they're placed in such a way where you're like, oh, I just got done, slaughtering an entire camp of people. Let me just chill in the hot spring for a minute. Um,
I
same
almost
with
spit out
the
my water.
same with the haikus. There's a thing where you find these places to sit down and compose haiku. Uh, what did you guys think about making haikus? Because this seems to be like
It was
something that a lot of
awesome.
people remember.
You
It
liked
was
it?
awesome. Oh my god, dude! Like you can so before I went and I beat the end of the game, I went. I can't talk about that. I went somewhere and I sat down and I read through all of the all the haikus that I had written, because it is really cool that each one is like a different theme, right? And you get to basically like create your own. I know they don't give you a lot of choices, but and again, going back to the cinematic part, after you write your haiku, it just like does a couple little quick cuts of the surrounding area, and Jin recites his haiku. I thought that was fucking really cool. Like I was very excited when I came upon those places, and I 100%. I found every single one, did all the haikus. And it was really cool. They they do a really really good job of getting you invested into Jin's character, to making you feel like you are him, even though you're not just some like nameless like Skyrim character that you created. They really get you into his role. So being able to go back and like read the haikus based off of the theme of whatever it was that you were doing, like by the end of the story, it really gives you a little bit more insight into how you view Jin and things like that. I love the haikus.
Yeah, I guess it was kind of a unique way of pushing the story a little bit, because you sit down, you write the haiku, it's like write about your mom.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you sit there. At first, I was kind of being thoughtful about it, because you can look at maybe three different things, and then you write about the tree or something else. But by the end of it, I was just like, yeah, just look at these things and write the haiku and be done with it, Jim. We got things to do.
Yeah, exactly.
Sharpen your sword. You're getting lazy.
Jin has major things to take care of. I'm not sure that his mind is fully in this haiku writing process.
Right.
Yeah, I guess if you're taking the haikus seriously, then if you go back and you're able to look at all of them and be like, holy shit, like things used to be so chill back when I wrote that one. Things are not like
what
that
I was
now.
thinking about like unrequited love.
Yeah,
That was
exactly.
easy.
I guess that can be a good thing if you're taking it seriously the whole time. I was not a fan of writing the haikus. I just could not really bring myself to care. But, that's just me. You might be into it.
Yeah, it's pretty time consuming too. It took, like 3 or 4 minutes to write each one.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Hey,
definitely not
I
quick.
paid $60 for that 3 or 4 minutes. Dude.
Yeah, true.
I'm getting everything out of
Yeah.
it. Dude.
Paid $60 for Samurai Haiku Simulator.
That's how we make $1 million.
Other than going back and reading them, there's no reward, right? You don't get any
Correct.
points you don't get any stat points or anything.
Yeah.
Again, I was just a big fan of Jin. I think he's one of my favorite video game protagonists, probably of all time. And like I said, being able to you are him and you are writing something. These haikus are an extension of how you view that character, and that was just really really cool to me.
All right. Well, on the topic of Jin, let's talk about the story a little bit. And we're going to go no spoilers right now, just the basic outline of the story. So you play as Jin Sakai, who is a samurai and the last surviving member of his clan. His parents were killed when he was young, and he was raised by the local Lord Shimura, who is a major character through the story. And you are one of the few samurai who survived the initial invasion by the Mongols. The Mongols, led by Khotan Khan, I think that's how you say his name. He is supposedly a cousin of Kublai Khan, and they're coming to take over Japan. And so the main thing in the story is you are trying to beat back this invasion and save Tsushima and prevent them taking over the mainland too. And the main thing the story kind of talks about is this conflict between samurai's duty and honor versus the methods that you have to use to succeed when you're so terribly outnumbered. So those two things, like the honorable samurai code and the like dishonorable way that you play open world action games, stealthing around and stuff like that. they clash, and that's a major story thing. And I'm not spoiling it. This happens within the first, hour or two of playing the game. And that's as far as I'll go with it before the spoiler wall. But I was happy. That seems like the game is scolding you for playing it the way that the game is made to be played, but it's really not. You just got to trust me on that before you play. Like, I was happy with how that played out. So that's all I'll say about the story before the spoiler wall. The story was good. Some really, really powerful moments, in my opinion. Yeah, what do you guys think about how the story went without spoilers?
Well, the story is a 10 out of 10 story. And I'd rather wait to the spoilers to talk about it. But to go on the, honor versus dishonor thing, the way I played the game was very dishonorably. Like they really want you to go to a camp and call out their leader and fight them one-on-one. And I was basically, the minute I was able to throw bombs, I was like, oh, I'm not doing any of that. I'm just going to throw a bomb at them. So I don't really do the stealth thing, but I was very stealthy, threw bombs at people, hit them with arrows and stuff. Like I was not an honorable samurai. And it felt like, even though I could have made either decision, that Shimura would have given me shit either way. So I was like, fuck it, I'm that grenade boy, I played the game like primarily using grenades. Like when I got to the duels, I was like, oh shit, I can't use grenades, this is bad.
Right.
Same with me. I was kind of annoyed with the samurai honor thing at first, but I think they tightened the story and how like it's a desperate time and we need some desperate measures here. And so samurai or not, you have to kind of adapt and improvise and overcome the situation. So they kind of tied it in pretty well. Like, yeah, your samurai shit, it's not gonna fly here anymore. We gotta be ninjas instead. Let's be some ninjas.
Right. Yeah. It's a common complaint that I hear about this game is that, like, oh, the game is clearly made to stealth in the grass and shoot arrows and stuff like that. And then after I do that, they tell me I'm a piece of shit because I did that. But I promise you, it plays into the story. It's all accounted for. The game is not like scolding you for playing it. It's, they're scolding the character because he's not supposed to do that. That's not how he was raised and trained. Yeah, without getting too far into it, the story I think is pretty good. You're also doing so other than the main quest with Jin's story with the Mongols, you're doing side quests because this is an open world RPG type game. And the side quests are broken up into 3 types. You have the character side quests, which are called tales. So the side characters, and this is something I really like about this game, the side characters all have their own side stories that you follow. And like they have like up to 9 chapters of their one big long side quest throughout the course of the entire game. So instead of meeting like, 75 NPCs that give you side quests throughout the game, you have like 5 side characters that give you a long like chapter based side quest. In my opinion, these are really good. I like the stories. I like how that type of side quest allows for character development for side characters. And we'll talk about that stuff, the specifics, after the spoiler wall. You also have mythic tales, which are like, they give you like a legend from mythology, or maybe they just made it up. I don't really know much about Japanese mythology. These are like single side quests that give you a reward, like a combat technique or a suit of armor or something like that. These were generally really well crafted, in my opinion. And then finally, you have what I just call errands, which I'm not sure if they're randomly generated. They feel like they are, where it's like random people will be like, hey, can you bring me some supplies? And I just ignored all of those. I could not be bothered with those.
Dude, they needed your help. They're in a war-torn country. I felt so bad. Like, if somebody was like, hey, dude, I need you to get me like this flour, and I'm just like, I should, man. Your life is rough. You live in this country right now.
Yeah, you've been living in a tent in the countryside.
I did some of the more fun errands where they were carrying somebody who's, I don't know, they had prisoners, right? And you just go save the prisoner just because.
I could not walk away from those. I felt so bad if I did.
I mean, like, if I'm traveling down the road and I see them transporting a prisoner ahead of me, I'll go help them out. But, like, you go to these camps and someone's like, hey, I need you to go get this thing that's, like, all the fuck the way across the map. Can you? And I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that.
Nah, son.
I am
Nah,
the
I'm
only
good.
person doing anything on this entire island. I cannot
Uh,
bring you 10 firewoods or whatever.
I'm good on that, homie.
What did you guys think about the like we'll get in detail with side quests later, but like just generally, do you guys think the side quests are well constructed?
Yeah, I really enjoyed all the side quests. It's probably the best part of the game, really. I think I enjoyed the side quests just as much as I enjoyed the main story. The main story was pretty straightforward and predictable, but the side quests, they could really go any direction, and they were all unique. All the side characters were pretty interesting. There's one guy I didn't really care for too much. The monk was kind of boring, but everybody else was awesome. They had their own tragedies that they experienced, and it was cool to see them push that narrative and a lot of character development with the side characters. And
Right.
like you said before, it's pretty unique in a game where, a game like Grand Theft Auto, the side characters don't develop too much. You just go to an NPC and they say, okay, do this mission. You come back and they're like, oh, you did a good job. Here's some money.
And then you never see that person again.
Right, right. So just focusing on five, or I don't know, probably close to 10, probably, maybe something like that. Different NPCs that give you quests and they fight alongside you. It was really an interesting take, and it was a lot better than most of the other open world games that I've played.
And another thing that they did really well, and I don't remember the guy's name, but the old archer guy and his story of him trying to find like his old student that had gone rogue or whatever. First off, that guy was in Lost. Okay. But anyways, back to my
Wait,
original
who
point.
was he in Lost? Hold on.
He was the doctor that they found on
Oh
the
shit,
videotape. That's
the
him.
doctor on the
Like,
tape.
yeah, go listen to his. It's the same guy. I was like listening to it, I was like, I know this guy's
That
voice. But
doctor's name is it Pierre Chang? Is that his name?
I do not remember. I think Pierre is. I think Pierre's. Or I really don't remember. But what I will say is one of the things that the side quests do is they force you to kind of like play the game the same way that whoever you're doing the side quest for plays the game. Like with that old archer guy, like a lot of the quests that you do for him involve you having to do things with your bow. I didn't use my bow a lot in the game. The only time I would use it is during those missions. And I don't remember the lady's name either, but she was very stealthy. So a lot of her missions involved you like sneaking around and like doing stuff like that. So they had a really good way of intertwining the mechanics of the game with those side quests too, which is very cool. But you're right; you're right, Ryan. Those are the best parts of the game, and I think some of those side stories are just as good as the main story.
It is Pierre Chang, by the way.
Yeah, I just looked
Nice.
Yeah, for open world games, I think I want to say, I mean, I know there were good side quests before The Witcher 3, but I think The Witcher 3 really just like snapped everyone's attention to like, hey, you have to have good side quests if your game is going to last this long. And Ghost of Tsushima, that you can tell they really put effort and writing into these side quests.
Yeah. The Mythic Tales also were pretty cool. Didn't feel like a collectathon, but you were actually going out. It was a collectathon, but it didn't really feel like it. They had these legends that you had to follow to find the different armors and different techniques.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was sick. It was awesome.
Without spoilers, we can talk later, but like there's one Mythic Tale where you're doing these duels. I think you do like 6 duels, and they're all set up in just these
so cool,
just these insanely beautiful arenas to do, and they're like it ended up being one of my most memorable things from the game is this one side quest, and a lot of them are really really quality, even if you are going around finding different parts of armor or doing 5 duels or something like that. They are really really well crafted in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you 100%. And like I said, I enjoyed picking up all the armor, and I used the armor a lot too. So it wasn't just for not. It wasn't really a collectathon, because collectathons you collect it's like the haikus. You collect them, but you don't use them. Yeah.
collecting for the sake of collecting.
Right, but I actually used all the techniques and the armor and stuff. It turned out useful.
See, I was like the opposite. I only ran around with like the Wanderer's gear. I thought that game was like the easiest game I had ever played in my entire life. And I ran literally the whole game with that gear. I don't remember exactly what it does. It does something that helps you guide yourself along. But yeah, whatever the basic shit you got at the beginning, I rolled with that the entire game. I figured I was like, well, I've already got it on its hardest difficulty. Might as well not wear any armor either. There is one costume where you're just in underwear, which is very fun.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, if you can't beat the Mongols the honorable way, just like take off all your clothes and try to freak them out.
Hey, Arnold,
Yeah. Um, you brought up combat there, so let's talk about combat. And I kind of want to break this up into like the general flow of combat because most of Ghost of Tsushima is either attacking enemies out in the open, like as you're traveling in the open world, or taking out camps, doing missions in camps. So the one of the things that really stands out about this game is the standoff mechanic, which somebody brought up earlier, which is where you can like announce yourself to a group of enemies and they come at you one by one and you do a timed button like hold, release, press, chain to just like one hit kill these enemies. It's extremely stylish. I think, Aaron, you said you never did that. I almost always did this when I entered a camp.
I did it, but yeah.
Or if I was like just going through the open world and I saw like, hey, there's two enemies in the road. I'm just going to do this standoff and one hit kill them. It takes 10 seconds. And then doing that fills up your like mana bar, for lack of a better word. So that was always something I did. It's pretty cool. I like this system a lot. It's a good way to just thin out a crowd when you're going into a camp or something like that.
I didn't really use it that much. I preferred the stealthy method and picking them off with the bow a bit. And if I saw a group of people walking, I usually just rode my horse up to them, popped off the horse, did a couple front flips, slash, slash, slash. It seemed just as fast as using the standoff thing. So I used it a few times, but I didn't find it very fun. I'm not very big on what are those? The hotkey presses, the
the
quick time events. Quick time events. I'm not really big on those. I don't really care for them too much. So
fair enough.
Yeah, I hardly ever use it.
Well, you talked about stealth. So either the game really, really encourages you to use stealth. I mean, it's woven into the story to use stealth. So this is like if you've played Assassin's Creed, this is the same thing. You're hiding in tall grass. You're going around on rooftops and stuff like that, using your like stealth kills or your bow to pick off enemies. Because these camps that you're doing for a lot of the missions, they have a lot of enemies in them, and I could not really fight in large groups. So stealth was pretty mandatory for me. You're also doing like leaping assassinations and stuff. I mean, it's basically Assassin's Creed if you've played that. So yeah, I was really heavy stealth. I think, Aaron, you said that you went pretty heavy stealth most of the time.
I don't know if that's the best way to describe my game. My game style is just like, hey, throw a grenade at them. And that's kind of like I literally like I played the game like a bombardier. Like my grenades were like for my first option. The sword was always my second option because the grenade thing was very funny and you could kill like 10 of them at one time. I don't remember what they were called, but they also had those darts that you could shoot at people that like drove them insane and made them fight their own teammates.
Yeah.
And so one thing I like to do is just go find one of the, leaders of the camp, hit that dude with a fucking dart and then watch him just kill everybody. So I guess it was stealthy. I didn't like to get up front, but I felt the game was like way too easy at a lot of points too. So I felt like I had to get creative with how I was doing things. So I wasn't like getting bored. You know what I mean? If that makes any sense.
Right, I agree as well. I am a big fan of stealthing and strategizing, and the game reminded me a lot of a game I played as a kid, Tenchu Stealth Assassin. You guys ever play that?
No.
Anyway, 7-year-old ninja in me was really takes over in these kind of games. So I like stealthing around and strategizing and using this kunai and using the crazy dart, whatever that thing is.
Oh, the knives were such a cool addition to that game. And in the multiplayer, you could throw like pocket sand at people and like blind them. It was fucking hilarious, dude.
Oh, nice. I need to get into that multiplayer. I need to play it. But yeah, just strategizing and going around. And just like Aaron, I couldn't, about the end of Act 1, it just started getting really easy for me. So I had to crank the difficulty up a lot. So I cranked it up to lethal, and lethal seemed almost just as easy because everything's one-shot kill. So I'm one-shot kill, but everybody else is one-shot kill, basically.
Okay.
So I think I ended up turning it back down to hard, which is harder than the hardest difficulty.
That's weird.
A step below. To me, it was at least. But yeah, really, when you crank up the difficulty, you can't just, jump in there and start swinging your sword around. You really have to strategize how you're going to take down people, and you just, focus on small groups. You sneak around, kill this small group, sneak over here, this small group, rather than alerting everybody.
Yeah.
And
I always like,
using
that style of stealth, like moving around methodically, taking out enemies one by one until stealth breaks. That's how I played the Assassin's Creed games. That's how I played this one too. It was a lot of fun. Also, like both of you guys brought up difficulty, that you thought the game was too easy on its regular difficulty. I thought it was really hard.
I know.
For a
I told
while.
you when you started the game, I was like, bro, just put it on hard right off rip because you're going to get bored on medium. I promise. And you're like, nah, I'm not. I'll be all right.
I think I
Yeah.
told Dave the same thing. I think I told David the same thing, actually.
Yeah, and I didn't. I put it on normal difficulty, like whatever the default is, and I got my ass kicked for a while. Like, I found this game extremely difficult at the beginning, and I think it's because combat has like the way he swings the sword has a really particular like rhythm to it, kind of like The Witcher, where it's not super fluid sword strikes like from one into another. There's a rhythm, and you have to get used to that. So I got my ass kicked for a while, and after a while I got used to it, and it became, a good balance in my opinion. I never felt like the game was easy until literally after I finished the story. Then I felt pretty unstoppable, but up until that point, it was. I thought it was pretty well balanced.
Yeah, it seemed like the enemies, they have great blocking AI. The AI is really good for blocking. You can't just go in there and mash. It won't get you anywhere.
And there's a lot of situations where you're fighting against big groups of enemies, and you're relatively weak compared to them. So like if you get swarmed by a bunch of dudes and you don't have like an escape maneuver or like one of your gadgets to use, like you can just get pounded and die pretty quickly. So let's talk about the kind of gadgets that you can use. They were especially helpful for me when I was fighting groups. You have your katana, which you can upgrade through collecting materials throughout the world. And then you have these like ninja tools, like we kind of touched on earlier. You have smoke bombs, you have shuriken, you have kunai, you have darts that do different things. I think you get a sleep dart and then one that kind of berserks the enemies into attacking. They're all pretty standard open world action game.
I think you forgot about the grenades, Dave.
I used a lot of grenades.
Dave, that's offensive to me. I need you to show some respect to the grenades, dude. That's the way to do the game.
Okay, if you say so. Like, I don't think I used
They only
them.
give you 3, though. It sucked. If they gave me 5 grenades, I never would have lost. I never would have died at all.
Yeah, the grenades were awesome. The black powder bombs are what they call it, right?
Right. Yeah.
Correct.
They stagger the enemies. They open them up, and you can just toss one, and then just slice, and you can take care of 4 or 5 dudes pretty quick. That's probably the most OP one for sure.
Yeah, I used a lot of smoke bombs because I think you can get like instant death blows when the enemies are stunned by smoke bombs. But I mean, I found myself in situations where I was like, oh shit, I have to like get out of here or I'm going to get overwhelmed. like often. So the kunai were really helpful for that, to just like buy some distance. Um, yeah, those, and I like really relied on the bow a lot. Like
Yeah, same here.
even in like standard combat, if someone wasn't right in front of me, I was shooting arrows until they got in front of me.
Yeah, and you had two different kinds of bows, right? Is that right? Short bow
Yeah,
and
you had
long
a
bow.
short bow and a long bow. That's so crazy. I literally never used the bow unless I had to for a mission.
Oh, I was constantly using the bow, constantly
Yeah.
using kunai, smoke bombs whenever I had to. Yeah, the gadgets are cool. I really like the gadgets. I like the stances too, changing your stances depending on the character. So you
Right.
have a stance that deals with heavy armor. You have a stance that deals with all kinds of different guys. So and leveling up, you level up the stances. Isn't that right? Yeah,
You
that's
level up
correct.
the stances, and then you level up like um various combat skills.
Hmm.
You can level up your ninja tools too.
Oh, right,
But
right, right, right.
you should be putting a lot of points into leveling up the stances.
Yeah, and I really liked perfect parries were pretty cool. You parry and then you cut the guy's head off.
Yeah.
Uh, the pairing system was cool. I love the combat. It was very, but like I said, the learning curve was a little too shallow for me. I need a steeper learning curve for sure. Because it just got too easy near the end. After I figured out the combat, after I powered up all my stances, I was unstoppable, even at harder difficulties, just like Aaron.
I really like how they had that like one thing to where like if you were fighting a group of people and Jin just straight up like fucks a guy up, like they all get scared and start running in the
Yeah.
opposite direction.
Yeah.
That's when I used the bow. I was like just stringing my bow and just picking them off like right as they got too far away. Very funny.
Yeah. The stance system is pretty cool. Like I can't remember if the Assassin's Creed game did the stance system, but like Neo comes to
Neo
mind if
does, yeah.
either of you guys played Neo. And in Neo, I thought it was too much to keep track of, but in Ghost of Tsushima, I felt like there was just enough, like just the right amount of things to be thinking about during combat to remember, like, oh yeah, heavy armor guy, switch stance to stagger this guy. I thought the stance system worked pretty well. And you need to use the stance system in duels also, which is the next thing in the combat. You'll get into these one-on-one duels where you can't use any of your ninja tools, and instead it's very focused on deflecting and parrying and trying to find the right moment to strike. And these were really difficult for me at the first half of the game, but I mentioned that side quest earlier where you have to do like 6 duels, and that really whipped me into shape. And this ended up being like by far my favorite type of combat. Really love the duels, partly because of like the almost like Sekiro like nature of them, but also because of how beautiful these duels are set up. Like you're never just doing them in random places. They're always like really like crafted. You're gonna do a duel here, so we're gonna make this environment and like the weather fucking beautiful during this fight. So I really love those.
All right, same with me. I love those battles as well. And like you said, just the scenery, how they set everything up, how they, one of them you're surrounded by flowers, another one's in a cave. And they were probably, to me, they're probably the most challenging part of the game. There's one Ronin that I fought probably, 20 or 30 times. It reminded me of, Dark Souls or something. Uh,
Yeah. I will say, like, when you increase the difficulty in the game, that's when, to me, it started showing, is when you get into the duels. The duels become way harder. And I did have some problems with a couple of those. I felt like just regular ass enemies, it didn't matter what difficulty it was on, I was killing all of them. It's really when you started doing the duels that the difficulty like increase really started showing up. Because they're hard, but they're
Absolutely.
satisfying.
Absolutely. I think this system shows off the technicalities of the combat system. It's not so chaotic. When you're out in the open or you're out, clearing camps or whatever, it's really chaotic, and you have to, everything's chaos. But just fighting these duels, you just focus on changing your stance is a lot slower, a lot more scripted, a lot more intuitive. A lot. You just kind of you notice the combat a lot better
Yeah.
because you're not being mobbed by 20 dudes.
And you have to be much more defensive in the duels too, because like the enemies you're fighting in the duels are all like boss type enemies, so you can't just like spam attack. They'll deflect and punish you for it. You have to like really wait for them to attack and try to get that perfect parry or at least deflect them.
Right, and there's no black powder bombs to stagger them or anything.
Right.
So.
And what's really weird that you say that is like I felt like with the higher difficulty increase, that you had to be on the offensive in these fights. Like you definitely have to be able to like dodge out of the way and parry and stuff. But I really feel like if you thought about it too much, like on those increased difficulties, they punished you. Like it's almost got to be like bam, 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 like Smash Brothers. Like you have to be able to get those you got to be able to get those buttons down really quick or else they will punish you for them. So I did feel like I was way more defensive on the other difficulties, but when it got to the the lethal difficulty, it was like, okay, I have to be the one that makes a play here. I can't wait for him to make a mistake.
So it got me into the same kind of like mindset that I have to be in playing Dark Souls or Sekiro or Bloodborne or something like that, where you take your shots when you have opportunities, but you absolutely cannot get greedy because then you'll just get wrecked.
Yeah, I can agree.
And I really really like that type of boss fight, where if you're really good, if you know the fight, if you know the enemies, because the enemies all have combos that you can learn, and if you know like, okay, this combo he hits 5 times, and if I get through that, then he's going to be open. And it's the exact same type of strategy and stuff from like the Soulsborne games, which I love, and I loved getting that feeling in this game too. All right, so all of these things we talked about, the standoff, the stealth, the combat against basic enemies, and then the duels, this kind of sets up like the loop of what you're doing most of the time in this game. Like you're getting quests, you're traveling across the open world, but you spend a lot of time going into enemy camps, clearing them out, trying to kill a local leader or something like that, which is very, very open world action. But I really, really enjoyed my strategy, which was like do the standoff at the camp. You can kill up to 5 enemies that way if you have the right gear upgraded. So you can take out, a third of the enemies
Like
in the
5,
camp.
yeah.
Yeah, right away. So I always did that. Then I stealthed around until stealth was broken. And then usually I would just have, a handful of enemies to kill in a big brawl. And then sometimes there's a duel. And I really like that progression in it. Like I said, I played for 36 hours. It never got old for me. I really dig that
Correct.
that kind of stuff.
And it's the best part of the game is it does not get boring. You don't like Far Cry, right? It's the same concept. You're going around and you're going into a camp and you're killing everybody, and then boom, you got to do it again. And then boom, you got to do it again. It's the same thing in Ghost, but like it does not get boring. It's always like, okay, this fight's going to be a little bit different than the last one. I'm going to have to like the camps are set up differently and things like that. So I think that's the best point you can make to this game is while it does seem like you're doing a lot of the same thing all the time, it always remains fresh and they give you enough power-ups enough upgrades to the ninja tools that you already have to where it constantly feels like you're doing it differently than the last time you did it.
Right.
Yeah, I can totally agree with that. It never really felt stale for me at all. If you have it at higher difficulties, but when I had it at lower difficulty, it started getting a little boring for me, you know? Just because I can't just always win, you know? I feel bad if I don't die. I feel like I'm cheating the game.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess I understand that. I died frequently, even on the standard difficulty, up until, the last 5 hours of the game. I was still dying like regularly. So let's talk about multiplayer for a second because this is a major part of the game. I didn't play this at all because, as I said in the last episode, I don't like multiplayer stuff. It takes a truly special game to break through, and I did not. I played this whole game. It's a very solitary game, I think, like as Jin, and I never was like, I want to play this with other people. That never sounded like an experience that I wanted to do. So, Aaron, I know you played it, so why don't you tell us what that's about?
First off, it's awesome. I never thought they could take a game like that and make, like an online multiplayer that wasn't like Grand Theft Auto or Red Dead, where you're just back in this open world and you're just like running little quests with people. So it has like two different modes. It has one mode where it's you and one other person, and you're playing through a completely new story. So it's like a completely different story. It's just a co-op story. You guys play through that, and it's awesome. And then the other mode they had was kind of like I don't know. I don't even know. It's like a wave like game, like Gears of War or something like that, where it's like you and three other people, and you each have a class. Like one guy's a DPS, one guy's a tank, one guy's a healer, one guy's a whatever. And you basically have to, yeah, it's like waves of different enemies that ends in a boss, and it was a lot of fun. They have a bunch of different customizable stuff that you can unlock for your character in game. You can take your character in game. They have people in all of the main cities in the game where you can just like talk to them and immediately just switch over into the multiplayer mode instead of having to like log completely out and then go back into it. But I loved it. I played it with Ryan and a couple of our friends, and like I said, we just slayed it, dude. I was hungry for more of the game after I had completed it, and it completely satisfied that part of it. But yeah, I understand why you don't want to play it, but I also feel like it's not like a conventional like multiplayer. It's like you're either doing waves with your friends or you're playing through another story. It's just co-op this time. So that's what really attracted me to it.
Yeah, I would have loved to try it. I just the time I was playing it, nobody else was playing it. I was recommending it to friends, and they were picking it up, a month after I finished. I just had nobody to play it with. It seems like something you'd want to do with friends and not just randies on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Correct. I would not have done it with random people. It was a lot more fun to play with like a couple of my buddies.
Yeah, I'm so not interested in doing waves of enemies. I've just played too many games like that, and it's just, it might be fun for an hour or so, but I always get sick of it. So
Dave, I'm
Call of Duty
I'm right
Zombies.
with you.
Yeah, Call of
Yeah.
Duty
No,
Zombies
I don't
never
like
was
that
was
either.
never for me. Yeah, I never really got into
Dave,
it.
I'm on the same plane that you were, and again, this is another thing I told you. Like I was like, you have to play the multiplayer with me, and you're like, no. And I was like, okay, Dave, but like I'm the same way. I don't like stuff like this. This isn't what I'm into, but they do a really good job. So what I'll say is like, if you ever decide to do it again, I will do that with you because it is totally worth it. And I'm not really into that kind of thing either.
I appreciate the offer, but I will probably not be doing it.
We're not friends
Because-
anymore.
I just really don't like multiplayer games unless it's super special, like Rocket League, like we talked about last time. So yeah, that's multiplayer in Ghost of Tsushima. The Ghost of Tsushima director's cut was released pretty recently as we're recording this. It adds a next-gen upgrade and also adds DLC called Iki Island. Did you guys play this?
Nah, I haven't tried it yet.
I can't pull myself together to pay $30 for the DLC, and
Correct.
Right.
maybe if it goes on sale on Christmas, $10 maybe I'd pick it up. And that's
Yeah.
what Death Stranding's gonna do. The director's cut upgrade is gonna be $10. I can't see myself doing $30 for it though, you know.
Yeah, and
Um,
not to get too sidetracked with Death Stranding, but the Death Stranding director's cut sounds like it just added so many fucking weird out of left field ideas that I might, I might be like more tempted to replay Death Stranding with that. Um, by all accounts, the DLC for Ghost of Tsushima is like pretty good. If you like the main game, it just gives you like another island to like go do a little story and stuff like that. From what I've heard, if you play it alongside the rest of the game, it doesn't really stand out. But for people like us who played a couple months ago and like would come back and play it, I think it's better for that crowd, is what I've heard. But yeah, like you said, I'm not paying $30 for one DLC pack of Ghost of Tsushima, even if I do really like the game. So
right, yeah.
I'll say this, man. If it's like a video game that has like a really really good story, like front to back, you get a really good sense of finality with it. The minute that they're like, oh hey, by the way, we made this like little sub story, to me is like saying like, oh hey, we're making a Green Mile 2. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, why would you add anything else? Like, you've already done something so good. There's no way this little thing that you did, this quote unquote sequel, is going to satisfy me the way the story did. If anything, like I have a sense of accomplishment and completion already. To me, it just seems much. I'm sure it's fun, but I have absolutely no interest in playing that again. It could have something to do with the fact that I did 100% the game, but just I do not want any more. You guys did a perfect job. You gave me the perfect amount. I'm full. I don't want any more to eat.
Yeah, right. And they call it a director's cut, and it seems like they would cut some things for a reason. So I guess the Iki Island, it was originally supposed to be in the game, but it got cut, right? I mean, they're not Kojima, Death Stranding, maybe that guy's wild. They probably cut some wild stuff from Death Stranding because
yeah.
Kojima was that fella. But I mean, they're not Kojima, right? So I'm not really interested in something that they cut from the original game.
Yeah.
And they added it in later for $30.
Right. Yeah, Aaron, I'm kind of with you. Like when I finish a game, my mind kind of like closes the book on that game. Even if I really, really like it, it's really hard for me to go back and play DLC for a game. Like it happened to me with Control. I really like the game Control, and I beat it, and then 6 months later I got the DLC, and I was just like over it.
Maybe you got backlogged, dude. I got other things to do, man. I can't go back.
It's not even that. I mean, it's like I really like that. I really like that game. I should be into more of that game. And if it's what I want to play right this second, then I'm going to play it. But like when I went back in, I was like, oh, like I'm over this. I'm not up for it anymore. And I have the feeling if I go back for the Ghost of Tsushima DLC, that would happen too. Who knows?
I ended up going back and playing Control all the way back through again just because it was on PS5. I really liked it on PS4, and I just wanted to. It was just so much better in 60 frames per second. I think it had adapted triggers as well, which was really cool. The DLC you weren't really missing much if you never played Alan Wake. The Alan Wake stuff was cool. If you played Alan Wake, but if you had no idea what was going on, it was yeah.
That might have been part of it too, because I've never played Alan Wake, so. Okay, let's get into our final thoughts about Ghost of Tsushima. and just kind of in summary your final thoughts about the game as a whole. So we'll start with Aaron. What do you got?
I don't mean to sound like a broken record, 2 episodes in a row, but again, another 10 out of 10 game. This is why you asked me to be on the episode, man, because you knew how much I love the game. The biggest the two biggest selling points I can give it. One, the battle system is a lot of fun, no matter how much I shit on it for being easy, no matter how much we've talked about how it can be sort of repetitive. It's some of the best or some of the most fun battling that you can do. And another thing that I hit on a little bit earlier, the little attentions to detail are just as impressive as the larger attentions to detail. You have these epic ass battle moments. You have great music. The fighting is a whole lot of fun. But then, like I said, if you want to like chill and like write a haiku or play your flute, like you can do those too. And they're equal. Like they put the same amount of care into those little tiny things that they did into the bigger things, which is something a lot of AAA titles I feel like do not do. So just my final thought, like if you like if you like video games, you should play it because it's one of those ones that general consensus is everybody loves it.
Right on. Ryan, how do you feel?
As for me, yeah, it was. I'd give it a 9 out of 10. It was one of the and for me, it takes me a lot out of me to just finish a game, and it takes even more out of me to 100% a game. And I got close to 100%. I didn't do the multiplayer stuff, but I did everything I could possibly do in the single player game, and that's super rare for me, super rare. So I thought a lot about this game. I felt it was a great game overall. I love the narrative, the storytelling. The cinematography was great. They had a wonderful director of photography that framed all the shots, and just the atmosphere was amazing. Um, it it infuses me with a certain, I don't know, certain feeling of, yeah, medieval Japan was badass, basically. Like, look, it was beautiful, but it was brutal. There's a lot of juxtaposition between beauty and just grittiness. And yeah, overall, I picked it up for $40, and it was well worth every dollar I spent on it. Yeah, great game.
Right. Yeah. I'm with you guys. I mean, there's a reason that I wanted to talk about this so early on in this podcast's lifetime. I think that I had been getting a little bit of open world fatigue, or maybe not even that. It's maybe just like I played a couple of like really, really excellent open world games, and then I played a few that were just not up to par. Um, I mentioned Assassin's Creed Odyssey earlier as one of those that I think is not up to par. And so I was a little bit wary about Ghost of Tsushima, but I think Ghost of Tsushima is good. It stands out in the genre for the reasons we talked about. If you're into open world games at all, and you're sick of the like clearing off the checklist nature of them, I think that Ghost of Tsushima doesn't eliminate that entirely. It's still an open world game with the tropes that are associated, but it hides them pretty well. And all of that, like all of those little things they do to hide that stuff goes a long way into like giving you immersion. And you have such a beautiful world that they've constructed. They really want you to be immersed in that world, and I think they do a pretty damn good job of that. The story is good enough. I don't think it's like a groundbreaking story, but it is pretty good. I was into it when I was playing. The side quests are quality, which is something that's really important in a big open world game. And we didn't really talk about this a ton, but the world itself is big, but it's not daunting. I mean, I hate to bring up Assassin's Creed, but those games are so goddamn big, and it's unwieldy, in my opinion. And Ghost of Tsushima is a pretty manageable open world. It feels big, but it's not unwieldy. So, yeah, really, really good open world game. I enjoyed it a ton. I think I bought it around the $40 price, and absolutely worth it. I'm not really a dollars per hour type person. So, I mean, it fits on that axis too, but it's also just a really, really good experience. And I feel like I feel like this game kind of came and went, even though there weren't a lot of games that released. A lot of like really good first party games that released last year or this year because of the pandemic and stuff. I really feel like this game is good enough that if you are considering it, but you're worried about, another checklist open world game or something like that, I think that it's good enough to get past all of that stuff. So those are my final thoughts about Ghost of Tsushima. We're going to do a little housekeeping here before the spoiler wall. So everyone who hasn't played Ghost of Tsushima and wants to avoid spoilers, thank you for listening. Please do not go any further. We're going to get into spoiler territory. So thank you for listening. If you would like to support this show, please subscribe, leave ratings and reviews if you can, and spread the good word. Check out our social media pages that I'll put links to in the episode description. Aaron and I also do a podcast called A Top 3 Podcast, where each week we pick a topic and talk about our top threes in that topic. That podcast is a lot of fun, so check us out if you're interested in that. Ryan, you got anything you're working on that you want the people to know about?
Yeah, I've been brainstorming a gaming podcast that has kind of a unique perspective, but my brain's all over the place. Maybe it'll come to fruition sometime, but as for right now, just keeping busy, and thanks for having me on. Anytime you want to have me on, please do.
Hell yeah, we'll if you get that podcast figured out, we'll shout you out for sure. And yeah, good to have you on, man. I mean, we're going to keep talking, but for those who are going to stop listening now, thank you for listening. We're going to take a quick break, and then we will come back with spoilers. Spoiler time. So time to talk about some story moments, I guess, that really affected us. So Aaron's, you got one that you almost exploded trying to hold in the whole time. So what do you got?
No, because there were like 3 or 4. So it's when his horse dies, right? Like, and it has a name. I don't remember the horse's name.
You get to pick the name.
Cool. Yeah, they give you like a list. Okay, that's right. But like that scene after you get out of Act 2 and you go into the new land, and as you're escaping or whatever, they fill your horse full of arrows, and then your horse dies. Like, right. So you have this whole scene where you have to where you bury your horse, and it's always there. They even mark it on your map, like the area that your horse is buried. And talking about the flute thing, like, again, without trying to be like silly or anything, like before I finished the game, I went back to the horse's grave, and that's where I sat and I read all my haiku, and that's where I sat and played the flute, and I changed the weather, like, because I just really felt like your horse is so important in that game, and they really have they even in like the little side pieces where you're like leaving a hot springs or a scene is over, you like get up and your horse is just like, all right, cool, let's fucking roll, dog. Like, like that thing was your best friend and the most reliable like character to you in the entire game. So when he died, like, to me, that's like up tops with like, Eris dying in Final Fantasy VII, like kind of impact where you're just like, oh shit, something I've been with the whole game that I never even really thought about had, but because you can jump off cliffs with that fucking thing and it lives, dude, and like a couple of arrows take it down. And I remember it being very annoying for a while until you got like your next horse. But I really wanted to say that one of the main reasons that it was so impactful, like I said, I went back, I read my haikus, I played the flute, and I went and I killed the fucking bad guy and beat the game, dude. That horse was the best character in the game aside from Jin. But I'll shut up. I just wanted to talk about that. I was about to explode.
Yeah, it reminded me of a movie from when I was a kid, Neverending Story. You guys ever watch that? The horse.
Hell yeah! When Atreyu loses his horse in the swamp.
Artax, he's carrying him through the swamp, and the damn horse dies. Man, that was fucking traumatic for me. So I had kind of the same
some old
effect
Yeller shit, dude. Yeah, it's your best friend. It's your confidant. He's seen you naked, like, right, and he does not judge you. Like he is your boy, and he's down to ride no matter what. And it's so sad when he dies, man. You gotta bury him. It's so fucked up.
For sure.
There's I'm not gonna spoil the other games that I'm thinking of for people listening, but like there's a lot of games where you get a horse and that horse is like your best buddy. Like, and not every time, but sometimes that horse dies, and it's always a super impactful part.
Right.
In this game, it totally was too. This game had a lot of like really heavy story moments, like when you're doing this side quest with Norio, who's the warrior monk, and you're trying to find his brother, and you get to the camp where the Mongols are holding his brother, and they've like cut off his arms and legs, and they're like keeping him alive to like try and provoke you
shit,
into like
dude! I
doing shit.
remember
And
that.
I
Holy
rolled in there. I was
fuck.
like, holy shit! Like I expect this from like some other games, but
Dead
I did
Space.
not expect this from Ghost of Tsushima to go so just like brutal torture like that.
Dark.
Yeah.
Ooh, man, you're right. I
Yeah.
completely forgot about that shit. That was weird. That was like completely out of place in the game too. Like there was nothing up to that point that was that fucked up, and then all of a sudden you're just looking at Stubby like I don't know what to tell you.
There was some stuff that was pretty messed up, but that was definitely like an escalation. Because if I remember right, they're trying to like break the warrior monk. They're trying to get him to like, basically just mentally break, and this is like the final step they take.
Yeah, I had a similar impactful moment whenever the Khan, they want you to kill the brother Taka, Yuna's brother Taka.
Yeah, right.
And he's like, you got to kill him. And then Yuna comes back, like, hey, where's my brother at? Where's he at? Is he doing okay? And then she goes and finds him dead, and she goes into berserk mode, man. That was another impactful scene for me, for sure.
What happens with Taka is you're both prisoner, and he says like he gives Taka a knife, and he says like, we'll let you go if you kill Jin. And Taka like turns around and tries to attack the Khan, and the Khan just fucking cuts his head off
And shows it to you, man. Like drops it at your feet. Holy fuck. I forgot.
Super
Bro,
brutal.
it's all coming back now. Oh shit.
Yeah. That's the kind of violence I was expecting from this game. I was not expecting like this dude to be like dismembered and kept alive with no arms and legs, to basically just fuck with your mind. So you have these side quests in here with Yuna, who's the thief, Taka, who we just talked about, Lady Masako, the warrior, Sensei Ishikawa, the archery master, who's voiced by Pierre Chang from Lost, Yuriko, who's the old woman who took care of Jin when he was a baby, Kenji, who's the sake salesman, con artist, like comic relief guy, Norio, the monk, and then Ryuzo, who's the childhood friend of Jin, the Straw Hat Ronin. Any of their side quests really stick out to you guys before I tell you mine?
Yeah, Masako was it was tragic, right? Her whole family got killed off, and she's just like looking for vengeance. She's like, you don't have to convince her too much to join you. I liked most of them really. It felt like a kind of like a Ocean's 11 or Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure vibe. You got to go out and you have to find everybody and convince them to join you on your quest to overcome your issues. So it had kind of a vibe, just like, go out and convince these people to help you. You got to help them do something. You scratch their back, they'll scratch yours. And I really enjoyed it. Kenji was obviously, he was there for comic relief. He had some funny quests. One that sticks out the most is they put you on a sake barrel and you have to go ambush people after being transported in the sake barrel. Like I said, Norio, I forgot about that quest with the dismemberment, but now it's all back. But Norio he's kind of boring to me, really. Ryozo is cool because Ronins are badass.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, I rolled the whole game with that giant straw hat. Like the minute I got that straw hat at the beginning of the game, it was the only thing I wore. Same in the multiplayer, just the straw hats. That thing was cool as fuck to me.
Yeah, they look so cute. Look at them with their cute little hats on.
Look at him moving.
Look at him stabbing me through the heart.
That's blood. Just all over the place.
Yeah, I did like the different costumes. We didn't talk about that, but there were certain like hats, like the weird straw hats that cover your face.
Yeah,
that, like made
there's like a pot. You're just wearing a pot on your head.
Yeah, some of them make the cutscenes a little. They take you out of it. They're a little less immersive when you wear these pot on your head or like.
wearing
Jin is
underwear.
his underwear, like having a conversation about taking over the castle.
Yeah.
It's it's pretty silly. It gets pretty silly. So I had to, I don't know. I did it for a while where I was just dressed up ridiculous for the cutscenes, but it's a little too silly for me. Got a little too wacky.
My favorite one of the side quests is the one with Ishikawa, the archery master, trying to find his student that kind of
Mhm.
rebelled against him and is now working with the Mongols. The reason I remember that quest the most is because it's set up in a way where for most of the quest you're not sure if you can trust Ishikawa. They sow like seeds of doubt really, really well, and it's only until like the last couple of I think his quest is like 9 quests long or something like that. And it's only until like the last one where you're actually like, "Oh, yeah, okay, this guy is actually on my side. I can trust him." Cuz he's kind of an asshole and he's really like combative whenever you press him on details of like, "Why did your student run away? Is it because you're a bad person?" Like,
Yeah, wasn't he like was he like one of Jin's like trainers when he was younger and he was like dishonored or something like that? There because they set that up really early in the beginning of the game. Like you're right, where you're just like, okay, what's up, dude?
yeah,
I,
this
I I
guy
can't remember exactly why, but I think he was like if he was like kicked out or he's like a friend of your uncle and he's not his friend anymore, so something like that.
he's definitely living like a solitary lifestyle. I don't remember the exact details about why, but yeah, they do a good job of basically like throughout the first half of his quest, you're like, I mean, I'm gonna go with you because the game is making me go with you, but you're definitely like expecting him to double cross you, and he
I'm
actually,
keeping my eye on you, bro.
yeah, he actually does double cross you a few times. Not in like small ways. He'll like lie to you about something small, and that sows those seeds of doubt really well.
Yeah, I think he was one of the more enjoyable quest lines for sure. Ryuzo was obviously pretty good too. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed Ryuzo stuff. I mean, there's some super obvious animosity between them from the beginning. They're childhood friends, and they were in a tournament, and I don't know, his uncle picked Jin instead of Ryuzo for something, and
yeah.
eh,
Ryuzo wants to be a samurai, but Jin got picked instead of him, and
all
so
right.
that resentment builds. And like I thought, when he turns on you in the story and you have to duel him the first time, that was a nice moment. And then you have to duel him again, and you end up killing him at the end. You're like, Jesus Christ, like this,
He is
yeah,
crazy.
All right.
for sure.
He's been holding on to that for a while.
Yeah, and the one thing you talked about, Ryan, what I think, I at least think the most impact, and I'm trying to say her name right, Masako, is that how you say it?
Yeah,
She
Lady
is kind
Masako.
of like yeah, so she is kind of like the catalyst to Jin's character doing these, non-samurai things. Like she's the one that's like, no, 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 fuck you, Jin. Like if you're not down to ride, I'm gonna go do this myself no matter what. So either you're
yeah,
helping me or you're not. Like, and if you're gonna help me, we're doing it the dirty way. And I think that does kind of like lead or leak into the actual game where you're like, well, fuck, that worked out when I did it with her. Might as well poison everybody in this place. Like, like you have that whole mission where you have to break into their camp and like poison their food, which was the most annoying mission in the whole fucking game, by the way. But yeah, I think she was kind of like that catalyst for Jin becoming that kind of warrior, and they do a really good job with the side quest of not necessarily changing Jin, but leaking their way into the main story. Especially like whenever you're doing the end of an act, and they all show up to help you fight. You're like, hell yeah, let's go.
yeah. It's my crew. It's actually,
Yes, my crew, dude.
it's actually Yuna, the thief, that like first teaches Jin how to stealth kill and like breaks through his initial like
That's
apprehension
right.
towards fighting that way. But yeah, Lady Masako is basically like, I'm gonna go kill this camp of Mongols all by myself. You can come with me if you want to, but I'm going.
Yeah, right. She's on a path for vengeance. I really
Yeah,
enjoyed her character. She was probably one of the more memorable. Yuna was okay. She's obviously the first one you meet because she saves you from the beach battle.
right.
And yeah, like you said, she probably has the most influence on you, just poisoning shit and fighting dirty. But Yeah, it took me a while to, jump on board with that. The fight, well, it took me a while to get over, losing my honor because they just make you feel bad for it. But
Yeah.
it really tied into the story pretty well. And
I think they handle it pretty well, except I don't really like how they're like at the end they're basically like this is Yuna's fault. This is all hers. Is that damn woman. It's her
right.
fault. I don't really like that part of it,
Yeah,
but
all the other characters are shitting on her the whole time. Yeah,
yeah.
they're just like, you trust this thief? She's a thief.
Yeah, and it's like, yo, I was the one who fucking poisoned the entire Mongol camp. Like I did that. It wasn't her, That was Jin. So, I don't know. That part was one that I wasn't a big fan of, but um overall I think they handled that like honor versus like actual effective combat techniques. I thought they handled that pretty well. Um why don't we talk about how that story concludes? After you take down the Khan, you have a confrontation with your uncle, who is still, even though your techniques have saved Japan, basically. Your uncle is still like, nah, you did not do this the right way, and you have to have a confrontation with him. So, how did you guys handle that final duel with your uncle?
Yeah, it's really cool because he's like, hey, some shogun or like it might have even been like the emperor of Japan, like is like, hey, dude, I have to kill you, and like my honor as a samurai means no matter that you're my nephew or whatever, like I have to kill you, get ready to fight. And it's actually a
Mm-hmm.
really crazy like boss fight after an end boss fight. So I guess the question you're asking, Dave, is so basically after the fight's over and you beat him, you get this decision. You could either kill him or you can let him go, and that's how the game ends. And whatever your decision is, like it influences how the world works or how the world looks during the ending of the game. I don't know which one's which, but like sometimes, like depending on what you pick, like it's either like a brighter, more flowery island, or it's either like a darker or more desolate island. So if the question you're asking is, did you kill your uncle or did you let him go? I
Yeah.
let him go. I didn't kill him. Like I just felt like it was very against Jin. I feel like it was not very Jin like to kill him. I feel like if he killed him, that would be the honor thing that, like, at least the way I played him, I had spent the entire game like avoiding. To me, killing him didn't make sense. But everybody, like, it's not like, oh, hey, a bunch of people do this and very little people do this. Like, people I've talked to that played it, it's like down the board 50-50 whether they did it. I did not kill him. I just didn't feel like it was within. I didn't feel like it made sense with Jin's character to kill him. I feel like I spent the whole game, fighting this, like, honor versus not, that, like, if I was going to be honorable on one occasion, I feel like this is the most honorable I could be, which is to not kill him.
Interesting. Ryan, what'd you do?
I did the same thing as Aaron. I didn't kill him. I spared him. Well, he was
Damn.
yeah, he kind of annoyed me earlier, and I didn't want to give him that dignity. He just hit me with all the samurai business for half the game, saying, "Oh, you got to be honorable. You're dishonorable, Jin." So I was like, "I'll show you dishonorable. I'll let you kill yourself, asshole."
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. It's a lot of that backstory I found kind of cheesy in general. I didn't really like the flashbacks too much when they flash back to Jim being young and getting beat up and shit. It's so cheesy to me.
Hmm.
So I don't know, the story arc with his uncle. I don't know. It was cool in a lot of ways, but it was probably one of the least impactful arcs, and it was almost predictable, right? It was pretty predictable. That fight was completely predictable.
Because he's against you the entire time, even
Right.
though Jin is the sole reason that you're making progress against the Mongols. The samurai are just getting like just crushed every time they try to do their honorable thing, and Jin's way is the only way that's working. So yeah, it was kind of predictable that he wasn't just going to be like, "Oh, you killed the Khan? Cool, I take back everything I said." So I did kill him at the end.
I knew it. I knew it. I didn't even remember. I was like, Dave. I was gonna be like, Dave, let me guess. No, I knew you killed him.
Yeah,
You're such a
so
bastard.
I like this because there's no happy ending. Either you let him go and it's like he's still going to come after you. Um after the story ends, he's still gonna try to kill you, and he has to live with like this dishonorable way that he survived, or you kill him and Jin has to live with that the rest of his life. I like these like two bad choices that you have to make. Like there's no like, oh yes, this is clearly the best thing. So I killed him because he asked me to. He asked politely, and I was like, this will be like if Jin's gonna become like this ghost and just live his whole life like this now. This is like one act of like honor and mercy that he can do. And I don't know if you should go watch this on YouTube if you haven't, because when Jin does kill him, it's so cathartic. Like the tension is really high, and he stabs him, and he does this like primal scream, like he's just broken by what he's done. And it's like framed with the red leaves from the tree and everything like that. It's just a really beautiful scene. And yeah, I had to do that. And after I did that, because you get the credits, but then you take over as Jin again. He has like a hideout in the mountains. After I did that, I was so like pumped up, like not like excited about what I'd done, but like okay, I'm the ghost now. Like I was so into that, I actually went through and cleared out the entire map of Mongol camps, like every last one of them. It took like 4 more hours of fighting, and it was just so much fun. Um, did you guys like keep playing after you get after the credits roll basically, and you have like free reign over the island?
Yeah, same as me. I went through and I cleared everything out. Like I said, I was trying to get 100%. I was trying to get that platinum trophy. I couldn't get it because of multiplayer, but yeah, I went through and found all the stupid haikus and all the foxes and gold birds and whatnot. All the what are those sword training
Oh, the
stands?
bamboo strike things.
Those
Right,
are
right.
so cool. I loved those.
Yeah, it's another. I don't really care for rhythm or the quick time events, so this is one of the more annoying things for me, really. But yeah, I went through and spent another 5 hours or so getting
Yeah.
everything, collecting all the little trinkets and whatnot.
I had literally done everything in the game to 100% and saved the last quest for my 100% completion. So I got that trophy for beating the game and the trophy for 100% completion as
Okay.
soon as I beat it. Yeah, so it was kind of like, to me, I was like, okay, if I'm going to end the game, I'm going to end the game. So I didn't go back and play through because I'd pretty much already done everything. I didn't collect all like the Mongol notes and stuff because there wasn't an achievement for it, and I actually thought that was super duper fucking annoying having to find those things.
Yeah.
But yeah, by when I had beaten the game, that was it. Finale 100%. I'm done.
Yeah. I'm not a completion person, and I normally would just turn off the game after the credits. Like I'm not going to go back and just, collect stuff or clear out camps, but like I don't just the way that the game ended and like the emotion attached to it with my ending was so like high that I was like I can't stop playing now. I got to finish what I started. So I went and cleared the stuff. I didn't do all the haikus or get the foxes or collect all the Mongol artifacts or anything like that, but I did play for a while. We kind of skipped over um, the main quest with the Mongols, which I think it's fine. I think that it's cool that you have. First of all, I like when you fight the final boss at the beginning of the game, and he's like super difficult, and he throws you off the bridge, and then you remember that the whole game. You're just waiting for your next chance, and then when I did fight the Khan at the end, I just completely destroyed him because I was really good at the duels by then. Um, I thought the final boss fight was super weird. Like you're on a boat, you fight the Khan, and then he runs to a boat, and you have to like follow him around and fight him, and it's not a duel, and there's a bunch of ads on the screen, and I thought it was a really stupid way to like finish the final boss fight.
Yeah, I agree with you. It was super anticlimactic for me. I really didn't enjoy that as much as I thought I would. It wasn't as cathartic to kill him as I was hoping because it was just chaotic. It was like some of those different the castle takeover missions and whatnot. It was just there's so much going on the screen at one time. I was hoping for a duel where it's, chill and I'm focusing on my button presses rather than jump, jump, throw a grenade, jump, kill that guy, kill that ad. It
Yeah.
was just a bit too chaotic. It wasn't like the actual last boss, which is your uncle, right? Where it's like everything's just chilled out. You got the wind blowing. It's just too much going on. The first fight with him was okay, I think, the duel fight, but the second fight on the boat was
Well, you do get a duel with him at the end, but before you kill him, he runs away onto the boat, which I guess like thematically makes sense because he's not, an honorable duel person. Like that's not what he believes in, so why would he stay in a duel and just let you kill him like that? He's going to go cheat and get an advantage some other way. But as a player and as a conclusion to the story with the con, I thought it was pretty lame.
yeah, I can agree with that. But overall, those missions taking over, we didn't talk about the castle missions at all, but I really enjoyed taking over the castles, except for one thing is shooting those the machine, the turrets were god awful.
Oh, against the
Shooting the
boats, you
boats,
mean?
the boats was awful.
Yeah. It felt like it felt like they're like we need another game mode or we need like a mini game or something in here to break it up. What can we do? And it's like, oh, we can do this weird kind of half-assed tower defense where you're shooting.
Right. It was just so out of place.
You're just on a turret. Turret sections in games often feel like gamey, like in a
Right.
bad way, And yeah, I thought it was cool to shoot boats with, but like, you know, how would a rack of arrows basically take down a boat? It just felt very kind of shoehorned in, like get to the turret and take out, you're going to shoot down an entire fleet of boats with this thing. It just kind of felt kind of weird to me.
Well, yeah, even when you were using them against people as well, after you take over one of the castles, you use those little turrets as well. It was just kind of campy and it felt out of place for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I can agree with that.
But overall, the combat was pretty much fun, pretty fun.
Yeah.
The boss fights were cool. There wasn't any dragons or anything like that to fight, which keeps you immersed in the game.
Yeah, I don't. There's only one story that I remember that gets into like anything mythological, where you think you're fighting against a ghost or something like that. But it's all really grounded in reality because it's not actually a ghost that you're fighting. It's just like a dude who is pretending to be a ghost. And yeah, I dig that. It happens in some games where you're playing and you're just fighting human enemies the entire game, and then it's like, surprise, here's a dragon. You gotta fight this. By the way, dragons are real, and that
Right.
never really happened in this game. So that's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
and they kept like all the techniques and the movement realistic. Like a game like Yakuza or something where they're doing flips and their hands are on fire and stuff. So it kept it all pretty grounded in reality compared to other games in the genre and compared to games in general,
Yeah,
which was a very likable point of the game for sure.
yeah, for sure. Good call. Any other like thoughts about story moments or anything like that?
Nah, man, I was just really fucked up about that horse. Like that is the one thing that stuck with me. The flute thing, the frog thing, and the horse dying.
Yeah,
Like, but if we're sticking to just storyline, yeah, that like I said, it's up there with all time like saddest video game deaths to me. Like if I carry anything with that, 20 years from now with me, like if somebody's like, "Hey, did you ever play Ghost of Tsushima?" My answer is gonna be like, "Oh, fuck." I forgot about his horse dying. That was so sad. Like, like it's like you said earlier, Dave, like the story's not great. It's everything we've seen in any samurai movie or any Western movie. Like it's the exact same premise, plot. The dialogue is absolutely wonderful. Jin is a great protagonist for a lot of different reasons. But yeah, and I wasn't really that fucked up by the end fight. I was actually kind of like cool with it being chaotic and me being able to use like grenades and stuff because I was done with duels by the time. I was actually pissed off that I had to do with my uncle. I was like, God damn, not
oh,
another
dude.
fucking duel. Yeah, I was done with them. That shit was hard as fuck on lethal. Like I was getting annoyed, but
Well, that sounds like a you problem, not a game problem.
yes, correct. Hey,
Yeah.
I did beat it. All right, I spent $60, bro. I beat that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, I also felt like the ending was pretty anticlimactic. I'm actually glad they brought the uncle thing back because killing the Khan didn't give me closure. Making things right with my uncle is what gave me closure to Jin's character, because that he's gonna kill the bad guy, but you don't know what's gonna happen with the relationship with the man who raised him.
Right. You have that storyline where your uncle is preparing to like legally adopt you, and the like medieval politics, like he's going to like legitimize you in some way. He's going to adopt you into his family, and that's apparently it's a big deal in the story. And after you poison the Mongol camp, he takes that away, and he says like, yeah, we're not doing this anymore. You're no son of mine. It's like a moment like that. And those moments, they were pretty good. Not just those moments never hit me as hard as more like softer character based stuff until the very end, when I killed the uncle. That was like extremely affecting for me.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I kind of found that pretty cheesy as well. The whole "I'm gonna adopt you, son.
Yeah.
I'm gonna welcome you to the family.
Yeah, we'll
You've
go.
you've earned it."
We'll
Yeah, and
go
then
out by the ginkgo tree. We'll play some catch.
let's get that flute going, get the frogs there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so cheesy.
Good point.
It's so cheesy. And then when he says, "You're not my son anymore," it felt, I don't know. That was like, to me, the uncle storyline, that arc was just the weakest. It was I don't know. I just found it so cheesy. And like I said, the flashbacks, I just couldn't stand some of the flashback scenes. I couldn't
Yeah.
wait for them to be over.
I actually do think that they like, so your uncle's like against you the whole time with your with your methods. And I think that they did a good job of making you get annoyed with him the same way that Jin is. Um, it's obvious that he's wrong, that his methods don't work, and that Jin's methods are the ones that do. And I just think like if this wasn't, I can see a version of this game where the uncle is just super fucking annoying and you have no affection for him at all because he's wrong. But that wasn't what I got. I got some like affection for him, and that's what made the ending so cathartic. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Yeah, I wasn't really connected to the uncle as much as I should have been, probably.
Yeah, he wasn't like, feeling like an actual father figure to me, but I did feel some connection. So, all right. What do you guys say we wrap this up? I think we've talked about the story, and if no one has anything else, we can wrap this up.
Yeah, sounds good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, good to have you
Yeah,
on,
dude.
man.
Awesome insight. I feel like you and Dave were like very articulate in like getting your thoughts across, and it would come to me. I'm like, hey, you remember how you could blow people up with grenades and stuff?
Yeah,
like,
that flute, bro.
Yeah. Hey, you remember how you could play a flute? There were frogs and stuff. So it was you were really insightful, right? You brought a lot. It was a lot of fun doing this, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me on again. Anytime.
All right. Anyone who's stuck it out this far, thank you for listening. And if you, when we post the episode, you can let us know how you feel about Ghost of Tsushima. Do you think it deserves the praise that we heaped on it? I know we talked about a few minor quibbles with it, but we're all extremely positive on the game. So let us know when we post the episode. Get on the social media and let us know how you feel. So thanks everyone for listening. We'll see you next time.
忘れがたきは何時安らかに眠れ